And when you get to read the bottom, but there's supposed to be no economic activities going on above. So you go wrong. Good evening. Today's Monday, November 10th, 2025. It's approximately 5:30 p.m. Make sure I got the right one here. Hold on, Mark. Am I reading out the right one? We'll start out with item agenda A. Mr. Brian McCain. Thank you, Brian. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. First off, happy 250th birthday to the Marines. And on that note, remember tomorrow is Veterans Day. So thank you to all of our staff for putting together the flow and riding in the Veterans Day parade on Saturday. It was a good turnout. And just so you know, I don't have the exact number of veterans that work for the city of Pueblo, but there's a lot of us here that work from the city, from the director level across the board. Just wanted to give an update from our community service graffiti cleanup crew out of municipal court. Speaking of Marines, as of last week, they have cleaned up this year 2,035,440 pounds of trash throughout the city, or about 1,018 tons this year alone. And this is separate from the team up to clean up and the Catholic Charities crew. This is just the municipal court with the community service volunteers. They have two guys that clean up an average of 1.5 tons a day going out there. So they're doing some good work, and they're led by a former Marine. So I like to give them a hard time. Reminder about emergency shelter operations. October 30th, 2025 marked a year of ownership since the city of Pueblo received the deed from the former Pueblo Rescue Mission and took over the operations and oversight of the Pueblo shelter. Safe Side Recovery has designated the 710 West 4th Street emergency shelter location the Relief Shelter. The Relief Shelter offers a safe, dignified place to rest and stay protected from severe weather. Previously, the mayor's office issued an emergency declaration with specific time frame when an emergency shelter is open. However, the Pueblo City Council approved an ordinance on December 23rd, 2024, amending the zoning restrictions to rezone 710, 724, and 728 West 4th Street from B4 Central Business Zone District to S1 Government Use Zone District. Ordinance number 10875 allows the 710 West 4th Street building to operate as an emergency shelter year-round without zoning restriction for congregate shelter stipulations. Emergency sheltering operations include safe and separate overnight sheltering for male and female guests. The relief shelter is designed to be as low barrier and welcoming as possible, with an emphasis on safety for all seeking overnight shelter. The relief shelter operates each day from 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. the next morning. Pueblo Transit announced an update to the South Shopping Route 5 beginning Monday, November 17th. The bus stop locations include stop at City Park Pool at Parkside Lane, the Pueblo Zoo at Zoo Avenue, and at the east entrance of Pueblo City Park at Goodnight and Dotson, then leading to Prairie and Goodnight. While the Red Creek Ride Route 11 currently drives through City Park, these new stops plan for a better access for families, children, and patrons of City Park. This new update to South Shopping Route 5 requires a Red Creek transfer for riders, which picks up every hour on the 45-minute mark beginning at 7:45 a.m. For information about bus routes and schedules, visit the City of Pueblo website, pueblo.us/bus schedules, or by calling 719-553-2722. We are currently accepting applications for the following boards and commissions: the Pueblo Human Relations Commission, Sangre de Cristo Arts and Conference Center Board of Trustees, Historic Preservation Commission, the Fountain Creek Watershed District, and the Urban Renewal Authority. Apply online at pueblo.us on the boards and commissions tab. Pueblo Parks and Rec updates. Junior Hoopster basketball registration is now open through December 5th for grades 2 through 3 and 4 through 5. Fee is $65. The season is January 17th through February 21st. Visit pueblo.us/youth sports for more info or call 719-553-2790. The Zumbathon Toy Drive is this Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. at El Centro del Quinto Sol. Donate a new toy and enjoy 2 hours of free Zumba. Some police department updates for October 30th through November 5th. Police had a total of 2,734 calls for service. with 1,104 dispatched and 473 self-initiated. This included our DICE team that had citations: theft from merchant 10, no camping ordinance 6, loitering 28, and positive drug paraphernalia 1. They had 21 warrant arrests and recovered $1,706 of stolen items. They also assisted with the cleanup in Eagle Ridge Dillon area. Watch 2 had 54 self-initiated calls for service, 8 traffic stops, 1 failed to yield, and 5 citations written. And Watch 3 had 251 self-initiated calls for service, 18 traffic stops, 11 failed to yield, 25 proactive citations, 20 proactive calls on Northern Avenue, 19 proactive calls in the Abriendo Mesa Junction area, and 31 proactive calls in the downtown area. And with that, it concludes my updates.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions, comments from anybody? We're good. All right, let's go to item agenda B, the lobbyist update. Gil Romero, Capital Success Group, 20-minute presentation. Turn your mics on, guys.
Good evening, Chair Gomez and members of City Council. It's a privilege to present to you in person tonight, and we wanted to talk to you about 3 things this evening. We want to talk to you about this next year's state budget. We want to discuss with you some of the things we've been doing in the interim on behalf of the city. And third, we want to talk about next year's legislative session and some of the bills that we're hearing. So as we begin our presentation, it's worthy to acknowledge that this is the last year of Governor Polis's administration. And that's always a challenge when the governor submits his final budget to the state legislature. And this year it's particularly challenging. As you know, last year we faced down a $1.2 billion shortfall, and there were some impacts to the city in that budget. And then this summer, the legislature met in special session, and they cut another $800 million, and they expect a shortfall this next year of about $1 billion. So I want, obviously, we don't have the time, and I know you have a busy agenda this evening to discuss the entire state budget that's being submitted by the governor. I will tell you that a part of the legislature that always begins the session early is the Colorado Joint Budget Committee, and they will start their work on Wednesday. And the governor will present formally his budget for the 26-27 session. I did want to highlight some areas that we're concerned about in the budget that hopefully we can either make some recommendations or change in terms of the impact to the state. First of all, just the big picture. It's a total budget of about $50.6 billion. The important factor in our budget is that 30% of the state's budget is funded with federal resources. And so as we look at this budget and its impact on the city of Pueblo, we're particularly focused on what will come and what kinds of things will happen in terms of federal legislation that will impact that 30% of the state budget. We're also concerned about a recommendation in the governor's budget that would, in terms of the business personal property tax backfill for local governments, that will be reduced. We're worried about the Medicaid reductions in terms of impact on Pueblo hospitals and potentially the extent that ERs may be used for primary care if there's not, if they're not able to have insurance or go to a doctor in a clinic. So we're concerned about those kinds of things. So we'll continue to keep you advised. We've sent you the full report that the governor submitted on November 1st, but we'll continue to keep you apprised of that. The interim work that we've been doing on your behalf. I want to start with the housing issues and Proposition 123. We've been working with Melissa Cook and Zach from Gary Ventures in terms of trying to figure out a fix for the housing issues. As you know, unless we're able to make some changes in this next legislative session, there's a potential that Pueblo will not be able to avail itself of housing. dollars. So we're continuing to work with the sponsor of that bill is Representative Bazenecker. He's slated to be the next Speaker of the House in the 26th session. He's a formidable person to carry this kind of bill, but we'll keep you advised as that stakeholder process works its way through the process. The other issue that it was an issue that Councilor Gomez brought up were the issues around homes that have been abandoned and where there are fires. I'm pleased to report that along with Brian McCain and Andrew Hayes, we met with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. We had their top people there, including the director of the Division of Air. And I believe that we've made some progress in the ability for the city of Pueblo not to just put one house up at a time, but also to continue to bring multiple structures to the table for CDPHE to consider and give approval in terms of asbestos abatement. So that discussion will continue. One of the things we're going to follow up with is we're going to meet with Lindsay Ellis, who's the legislative liaison. But I think that first meeting with CDPHE was very productive, and we appreciate the expertise of both Andrew Hayes and Brian McCain on that issue. So that's one that we're really hopeful that we can continue to work on next year. So now this is the hard part, is the crystal ball. What do we see for next year? Our focus, but we really obviously want your input. But as we sort of see the template for what the governor is trying to do is the major issues that we would like to focus on behalf of the city, because I think even in a down year when there isn't a lot of money, I do think there's an opportunity for us to look at economic development. We certainly are always concerned about public safety issues, and we're obviously concerned about healthcare and Medicaid. And those are the three areas that we would like to focus on, but certainly you're the boss. And if you decide, hey, there are some things that we think are really impacting Pueblo and we need your help on, but these are the things that we're seeing, and we're sort of looking at it from the perspective of not having a lot of money available for new resources and new programs. We do think there's going to be a lot of discussion around data centers. Data centers are great economic opportunities for cities, but big data centers, we may not be able to avail ourselves of, but depending on how those data center bills are structured, we think Pueblo would be an opportune place for some of that economic opportunity. We expect a number of bills that will be coming through where the message is we want more jobs, and we want more jobs both in medium-sized cities and rural economic development. So one last thing that we wanted to cover, because it was such a huge issue for the city last year, was the legislation around municipal court. And I know that you asked the question, Councilor Aliff, with regard to the issues that we worked on behalf of the city, specifically the municipal court issues. And I wanted to advise the council that we worked on all of those bills with due diligence. The last bill, the bill that the governor vetoed with the strong input from the city and the mayor, was an issue that we hadn't confronted, and we were surprised to confront. We represent two other clients that really spend most of their time in the education space or in the correction space and never have been involved in local governments. When they took positions opposed or in support of the bill, just like any lawyer that, in my law practice, if I believe that there's a potential conflict, I went to both those clients and said we were advising them that we were going to represent the city of Pueblo on that, and we did. And those two clients, both aware of the conflict, allowed us to work on that bill, and we worked on that bill. We set up meetings with members of the legislature and the city attorney, and we pursued those bills, but votes were really locked in on that particular piece of legislation. I do want to advise you, in terms of next year, would the same thing develop? The answer is no. I've talked to the sponsor of the bill that was vetoed by the governor, Javier Mabry, representative from Denver. He's going to bring a bill back. I think you've probably seen it, and Colorado Municipal League has described it to you. it's really going to be more of a transparency bill. So the bill that the governor vetoed won't come back. So I don't think that that conflict that will exist next year. But I just wanted to advise you, Councilor Aliff, that when you have a firm that has multiple clients, there's always the potential. We just didn't see it with those two clients because they never get involved in local government issues. So I wanted to give you that explanation because I know you raised that issue. And with that, happy to take any questions.
Councilor Martinez.
Thank you for that update, Romero team. So I have a couple of questions. One, I guess not a question, but my first thought is how exciting that the Prop 123 bill has a heavy-handed hitter on it. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Is it going to be introduced as one of his top 5 bills, or is it just he's the main sponsor on it?
He's the primary sponsor on it. He wants to do stakeholdering on it. I think we're not the only city that's impacted.
That was my next question.
Yeah, is impacted by this. And I think, it was always, the intent of the bill that, that Pueblo be in that, we were in that situation of the number of housing where what was the term that was the housing stock would be higher than allowed by Proposition 123. So I think, I'm not saying any bill that's introduced is not an easy bill, but I do think that there will be bipartisan support to fix that because I believe that was the intent. So we'll continue to work on that. I think we have a great sponsor, but we'll keep you advised on the stakeholdering on that one.
Okay. And if the city can help with the stakeholdering process, because I think we have so many different housing developers and I think a very expert housing community in Pueblo. So if we can be a part of those stakeholdering processes, that would be great.
The answer to that one's easy, yes.
Okay,
And,
great.
I know Melissa was involved with Zach on some of this stuff, but we'll continue. Once they set the dates for the stakeholdering process, we'll make sure that they attend those meetings and we'll continue to advise the council on that.
And then my next question is around the data center legislation that you said is probably going to be a hot topic in the next session. What was the outcome of the AI special session legislative stuff?
Essentially, they were unable to come to a compromise, so the governor and other stakeholders agreed to push back the start date until after this session in hopes that they will be able to come up with a compromise. So it kicked it down the can another 6 months.
So the data center hot topic is independent of the AI conversation that's
Yes.
happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know you're going to take on another resolution involving the tariff, but that's what we're looking at for the city of Pueblo is smaller projects that fit into the, where the city is. The data centers, depending on the scale of them, that's what we're going to be, hoping to work with council on to make sure that Pueblo would be included or there would be an exception to smaller communities to provide some element to those kinds of projects. But those data centers are only a part of what I think we're looking at. We're excited that labor unions are really going to get involved in a little bit more of the strategic planning around, a number of areas of the state budget where they think, there's an opportunity for economic development for the state. So we'll, we don't have specifics on it, and I apologize for that. But we'll, as that starts to, we start to see flesh on the bone, and that we'll get back to the council. But that is one of the primary areas that we're going to focus on, in terms of our representation of the city and working with the governors last year.
Okay. Councilor Boston.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. Great report. I liked a lot of what I had to hear. It's great to hear you guys are doing work with the Prop 123 funds to try to see if we can, get a piece of that pie. Things about burnt out blighted houses, that sounds like some great stuff. But the data centers, that's something that kind of question when you guys talk about Pueblo and we have, issues with energy rates, and those are such big users of energy. And I know Councilman Aliff and myself brought up, the issues of energy and how expensive it is here. And, if there's anything we could do to get help with energy rates at, your guys' level. And I don't think we've heard anything back when it came to either community choice energy or anything you guys can try to battle for us in that respect. Do you guys have anything out as an update on that?
So we do, and I think we sent a letter or an email to Councilor Aliff with respect to community choice. We've asked the chairs of the Energy Committee. We don't think the governor's going to carry anything on community choice. One of the things that we want to highlight for you, and we'll send you the report, is the Public Utilities Commission sunset is up this next year, and that report is out. There's some recommendations in that I think the council would be interested in. As you know, Public Utilities Commission regulates utilities. And they're, one of the recommendations that I think that the council should look at is they want to expand the board from 3 to 5 and provide more regional representation. I think that would be more helpful when you're dealing with an entity like that. You're gonna have a new governor, in place in another year. They may decide, maybe the Public Utility Commission is not the best way for cities to interface with energy providers. And so we'll continue to look at that. But that's also, I'm glad you brought that up, Representative Boston, because that's where I think labor is sort of coming to the table now, saying, listen, I think we have to look at a lot of, we need to look at a range of energy choices out there. And I think that's where labor is saying, and don't exclude us from the process because we are the ones that provide the jobs for these things. And I know you have to balance, and we understand that. And that's the nature of the composition of the legislature right now. You have to balance environmental issues with some of these things where cities want to grow. And that's why nuclear power is now not this strange word that we're using, especially with Comanche 3. So more to come on that. And as I explained to Councilor Aliff, there may not be a bill on community choice, but I think there will be some other opportunities for council to weigh in.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Anything that you have in that realm, can you also send to me?
Okay,
I'd
we'll
appreciate it.
continue. We'll add that to the top list in terms of energy. And we
Thank you.
appreciate yours and Councilor Aliff's thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Gil, real quick, I've got something. Have you had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Co-Create, Sal Acuna? I just came from a meeting
No.
with them, and they were working closely with Pedco. And maybe Dennis, you've gotten some stuff from Pedco on this, but they've been looking at the same kind of things out, sizing the data centers for Pueblo and some of the outlying areas, not these giganticness that they were talking about. But if you get an opportunity, you might want to call both of those guys and follow up because they're working on it as well.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, as I said, data centers, they may be the scale of them may be too large. We haven't seen the legislation yet. We think there are going to be at least 3 bills introduced, but I want the council to see them and weigh in on them and see if there's a way that we can scale something for medium-sized cities of $100,000 or less, so that these aren't left, in big metropolitan cities that are driving those energy issues. So we'll keep you advised, and we'll get that information from you and your staff.
Thank you. Council Flores, please.
On the issue of data centers, it seems like the legislation has more to do about data centers potentially being able to handle their own electrical needs. Supposedly, the needs of data centers would be double the infrastructure that we have now in the United States. So you're talking about a lot of power. Do you have any knowledge of whether or not this legislation is going to allow a community like Pueblo to get a data center that will provide their own power?
That's a great question. We don't know. There, as I said, 3 different sponsors, 3 different directions on this. The governor has not weighed in on that, Councilor Flores, but I mean, I think that's a good question to ask in terms of what the scope was. If you remember, Senator Hendrickson carried a bill last year, and they were silent on that issue. So, more to come. As I said, the session starts a little bit later in January this year, but we're already starting to see some of the draft legislation. When we get the draft legislation, just understand when we send it to you, the bill even hasn't been introduced, but it's a great time for council to weigh in so that we can go back to the sponsors and say, this is the impact on the city of Pueblo.
Yeah, just keep us posted.
Okay,
You
will
know,
do.
one of the things, we've already had a lot of conversation with data centers through our economic arm, Pedco.
Yeah.
And we continue to have a relationship with several. So this is going to be really important, I think, to the city. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, when you see three bills this early, that, you know, people are talking about them in November. It's just something for the city of Pueblo to look at and try to figure out where we fit into that with, you know, sort of our infrastructure here in Pueblo. But I think there's some viability.
And then the two ballot questions that passed regarding the free and reduced lunch at schools. I mean, both of those passed. And so the question is, how is that going to work, I guess, for the communities? Because now the money's going to be coming directly from the state and not pass through to the feds. Do we have any idea yet as to how that's going to operate?
Another good question, Councilor Flores. We don't, and there's so many moving parts right now, as you know, with the shutdown ending, in their court cases with respect to SNAP. I advised council about 2 weeks ago, the Joint Budget Committee approved $10 million in emergency SNAP. But one of the questions that was raised by Senator Kirkmeyer in that JVC hearing was $10 million is a drop in the bucket for what the state needs. And that's unfortunate. I was telling somebody, I was at the grocery store the other day and you see this, you know, people with their shopping carts deciding whether or not they can afford this item or they have to get something cheaper. And so, you know, when we talk about, you know, issues we'll be following for the city, obviously, SNAP is a huge program that needs to get funded. I think that there's a commitment on behalf of the state. I don't know if they can fill the gap of $200 million, but certainly if the federal money is released, that will certainly help with the burden. But I think there's a commitment on part of that and then the impact of the ballot issue. And we'll follow up on that one as well. And they're taking notes, so we'll follow up with that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Councilor Maestri.
You know, through my contact at the PUC, what I had learned about when it came to data centers was it wasn't the fact that we couldn't have data centers. It's that the data centers are in charge of their own infrastructure. So they have to pay for that. They don't have infrastructure available in communities to accommodate data centers because they would be front loading infrastructure, which leaves for the ratepayer to pay for a portion of it in case a data center comes. So it's not, we may not have data center infrastructure right now, but if a data center came, my understanding was that they would just have to pay for that infrastructure.
Yeah. In response to that, Councilor Maestri, that's why, you know, without seeing a draft of a bill of the three that are being done, I think it's one of the things we'll have to look at. We're not gonna fit in the lane of a data center, you know, because we just don't have the infrastructure. But I do think that there are going to be breakup parts of that economic stimulus that could impact Pueblo, and that's where we have to look for those openings. And I think, you know, working with the mayor and council on looking at some amendments to those bills, and as they introduce the drafts for you to look at them and say, you know, hey, this could work, but we need this sort of change. That's what we're going to look to you for. So, but I agree with you.
Yeah, because that's the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to have it come forward, right? Because where the ratepayers get stuck with paying for it and if it doesn't come forward.
Right.
So that's one thing you got to look out for in that changing of it or amending it.
I agree. And the proof will be in, you know, what these draft bills, you know, how they address those specific issues around and, you know, the power that because they consume a lot of energy in the process of doing that. But the economic development component, you can't dispute.
Okay, is that it? Anybody else? Any other comments? You said us, you good?
All right, thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair. Thank you, members of council. Thanks to, it's a privilege to present to you tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, up next is item agenda C, Steel City Work Center of the West update. Christina Trujillo, Executive Director, 15-minute presentation. Turn your mic on, Christine.
Waiting for the PowerPoint to come up and then we could get started. Oh, goodness, thank you for letting me know. So good evening, counselors, Mayor Graham. My name is Christina Trujillo. I'm the Executive Director of Steelworks Center of the West. And I just wanted to come before council because it's really been a while since I've came and gave an update about some programs, projects, and activities that we are working on. So a little bit about us, for those of you that don't know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit agency whose main mission is to preserve the site and the archival collection of the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, as well as providing educational opportunities regarding the history of CF&I and why it is important to our community. And we do that, like I said, through some various programs and projects and activities that we'll get into in a little bit. But first and foremost, I think the important thing for you to understand and the community to understand of why we're so important and what makes us different from different museums is the legacy that CF&I has left and the impact that CF&I has had and continues to have right now on our community. So the first presence of CF&I was back in 1872. The first piece of rail to be produced, manufactured, and shipped off from our Pueblo plant was in 1881. 144 years later, to this year, we are still producing rail and other products out of this same mill under a new owner of Rocky Mountain Steel Mill. But the original company that started back in 1872 is still in production today. I think this is an astronomical feat for any business and any community in any city. So the most important thing that we need to remember regarding the steel mill is that they helped form our community as we see it today. Its eclecticness and our diversity. So CF&I would send recruiters to different points of entry to get people to work directly at CF&I. At one point of time, there were over 42 languages spoken at CF&I. So the people that relocated here, they brought their colorful culture, their stories of their heritage, their faith, their food, their treasured traditions with them, and different dialect that we see here today in the Pueblo community. Pueblo has also have some long-standing landmarks directly due to CF&I. The most prominent and recognizable one, I think, is going to be St. Mary Corwin Hospital that was actually started by Dr. Corwin, who worked at CF&I. We have Lake Minnequaw, a school that was started from them, a couple of religious institutions, and now it was Bessemer Park, but now it's Ray Aguilera Park, was actually started by CF&I. We also have CF&I products in some nationally known landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge, the Space Needle, Brooklyn Bridge, and even my favorite, Del Monte, the food, fruit cups that we see today in the grocery store. So CF&I in the 30s would supply them with hundreds and thousands of nails in order to create the wooden shipping boxes that they would transport their products in. So another company role that we played in nationally that I just think is really astounding that not a lot of people know about. So who are we and what do we do? We actually, our main thing is our museum that was opened in 2007. It's located in the renovated medical dispensary. So out of the museum, we have had various exhibitions that talk about the technology of steel making from the late 1800s all the way up to 2024 when that exhibit came about. We've talked about how women played a different role in CF&I when they started joining the workforce and taking part in some of the jobs that were left vacant by the men that went off to war. Another thing that we're working on right now, we did apply for a National Park Service grant in order to do a little bit over $640,000 restoration work to the museum. We need a new roof, we need windows, doors repairs, stucco, we have a drainage issue. We have some soffits that need to be repaired. So we're going to get ready to start that probably in the spring of 2026. And I bring that about because, you know, people don't often think of museums as a major moneymaker and a major contributor to our economic status here in Pueblo. We'll talk about some other reasons how we do that, but I just wanted to highlight this because this is a really heavily funded project, especially for the Bessemer area in order for that to take place. Our archives is very extensive. It's in the top 5 most complete industrial archives in the nation. We have over 100,000 digital images, 6,000 cubic feet of the company records, over 200 films that were produced by CF&I, over 30,000 maps and drawings. And we now are the stewards of the maps from the county assessor's office, which were given to us here. So in addition to the archives, we're so lucky that we have built-in material in order to develop educational curriculum through volunteers of School District 60 school teachers who create curriculum that coincides with our various exhibitions that we produce or different speaker series that we come out with. And the great thing about partnering with existing school teachers is they're able to tailor the curriculum to meet Colorado Department of Education standards. So teachers don't have to come up with their own way how to integrate that into their curriculum with us. So each year we receive thousands of scholars that come to visit us. We see organizations and school tours that come to see us. We go on site, we do speaker series. But one of the biggest things that we've been experiencing since COVID is the interest in people doing genealogy, wanting to know their family history, wanting to know about mom, dad, uncle, brother, sister, cousin, neighbor, really good family friend who worked at CF&I. And we're able to produce materials like their personnel record or any mentions in the CF&I Blast newspaper. When you look at museums, museums play a critical role in the overall well-being of people. And that's not something we often associate museums with. So museums can spark curiosity, foster a sense of personal power and identity. They can really stimulate learning and critical thinking and bring about more creative thinking in the people. Through different exhibitions, you can facilitate connections and bridge cultural divides by providing opportunities for people to interact with shared experiences. One of the things that we're specifically doing to address that and shared experiences is our next exhibit is going to talk about immigration, of how and why people relocated specifically to Pueblo, Colorado to work at CF&I. We know that cost can also be a barrier for people to come into the museum, even though admission is only $8. So we have partnered with Museums for All for recipients of SNAP benefits to get a reduced rate in order to still experience the museum. So we want to be cognitive to be able to offer free museum days, as well as have an opportunity for anybody to come see us that wants to come see us. One of the biggest things that we have done here lately is starting to develop monthly community Bessemer Town Hall meetings. This has given the opportunity for Pueblo Bessemer residents to come to a location and to have guided facilitation on what are the needs of the Bessemer community. The first meeting was a wide range of topics, everything from illegal activities going on in the neighborhoods to broken barriers along the Bessemer ditch to people not being able to afford to dispose of a lot of the debris that was left by other people walking through the community. So we have partnered with different agencies and have taken the lead on getting this going. So we invited Police Chief Knoller to come and speak at our most recent Bessemer community meeting. And he brought other officers with him that explained the process of what it looks like on how people, we could keep them off of the streets, what we can do as citizens, and really had a chance for people to speak one-on-one with him and his officers. For assisting people to get rid of the debris and trash in their neighborhood, I was able to raise $1,200 to purchase 120 vouchers from the city's department in order to distribute out specifically to the Bessemer community and those residents that need help. Found out that the lights for the wiring on the lights for the baseball field at Ray Aguilera Park got stolen. So I'm working with an industrial organization that should be able to provide new wiring at no cost to the city to replace the wiring and do installation, hopefully for those lights to be functioning so kids can enjoy the ball field again and they could have activities there. We're just waiting to hear on how big the gauge is and how many feet they need. The other thing that I mentioned is there was damage to a barrier at the Bessemer Ditch on Pine and Bay State. I called the Bessemer Ditch Company. They were aware of it. They said they're planning on doing the repairs more towards the winter when they drain the ditch. And, you know, a month later, they still didn't do any repairs to it. So I was able to reach out to Mayor Graham, and she attended all of these meetings, and we had a meeting on a Thursday. By Monday morning, they had already made repairs to that ditch. So talk about immediate community response and action to where they see that their voices are truly being heard. And Steelworks has been a long recognized and trusted leader in this community with a proven track record and ability to bring people together and move initiatives forward. So we have the resources, the expertise, the track record to secure funding, write strong grant proposals, and deliver on funded projects. So this is something that we're going to continue on until we address the needs of the Bessemer community. And then even after that, we're going to move on to see how we could help maintain what we're doing. In 2021, Pueblo CFNI Administration Complex was deemed a National Historic Landmark. What does that mean? That means we have our own Statue of Liberty here in Pueblo. It's the first and only one, and the 26th in Colorado. So how museums could impact the direct economic viability and livelihood of the city is through tourism. So there's something called heritage tourists. Heritage tourists are those individuals who, when they visit a destination like Pueblo, they want to learn about the history of the community, what helped shape and form it, and what unique things do they have to say about the community. So 72% of visitors of Colorado as a whole can be classified as heritage tourists. So within this is something really astronomical and imperative, I think, for our tourism industry, that we need to start targeting these heritage tourists, because 50% of all heritage tourists are willing to spend a night and have an overnight visit just to learn more about the local culture and history. So recently, the Colorado Tourism Office, in collaboration with the Economic Development and Internal Trade, OEDIT, and CTO, released the 2024 Economic Impact of Travel in Colorado. So Colorado was up overall in travel in 2024, reaching 28.5 billion, which was up from 2023. But when we look at the demographics specifically for Pueblo, travel spending is down 4.7% in here. Where can we make up these gaps, and how can heritage tourism play a role in that, of helping to develop a wider and broader reach for a different demographic that maybe not be quite utilized and touched on and maximized to the best of its ability? So, you know, a lot of people always ask me, well, Christina, as an organization, isn't that your responsibility to do all of these things? It's like, yes, it is to a certain aspect, but there's also other organizations in the community that focus on economic development, that focus on tourism here with us. And so I wanted to show you the excerpt of our budget actual results from our 2024 audit. As you can see here, I operate off of a very, very lean budget, and I stretch every dollar as I possibly can to the furthest extent. There's a lot more museums in the community that are more funded, well-attended than us, but that doesn't mean that we can't collaboratively work together to come up with itineraries that promote tourism, to spend a day here, to spend the night, to link in other organizations like restaurants, visiting downtown, HARP, or even walking along Union and shopping. So as you're looking to the future, as city council members who are staying and other city council members who are coming in, I ask to keep this in mind at the forefront of your thoughts when you're looking at a holistic approach for the community. Don't discount the role that museums play in this community. We have wonderful museums that focus on airplanes, our agricultural history, the Goodnight Barn, El Pueblo, Pueblo Heritage Museum, even the State Hospital Museum. We're all working collaboratively together to see how we can promote tourism and specifically looking at ways that we can improve our community.
You can continue, Ms.
Yes. Oh,
Well,
yeah, I'll just wrap it up by saying that is my one goal that I'm working on, is to go ahead and bring everybody together and stop working in silos and working collaboratively together. And we've made some good strides in that, and that we're looking at becoming members of the American Bus Association. For those travel tour bus that you see around the community, we're going to be putting together itineraries in order to help people stop in Pueblo and work with Canyon City and the Royal Gore Bridge to make it maybe a 2-3 day visit in our area.
Okay.
So I know a lot of information and a lot thrown at you, so.
Okay, Councilor Flores, please.
Yeah, thanks for the report. One of the things that I've thought about for a long time was, how the city and the mill could kind of work together to improve I-25 that goes
Yes.
from Northern all the way down to Lake. And I'm just wondering what your relationship is with the new owners and whether or not they would be, amenable, to getting together with the city and potentially the county. I don't think many people know that the mill was always in the county up until about 3 years ago, when we were able to incentivize the mill in order to build the long rail manufacturing plant.
Correct, yes.
Up until that point, it had always been, and that would have been like 2022 or 23.
Mhm.
But up until that point, the mill was always in the county. Because of the city's assistance under the urban renewal laws, we were able to incentivize them with one caveat, that we would move 50 acres of the county that they occupy into the city. So now the portion that represents that 50 acres, they are now part of the city, which I kind of feel like it's a different time, a different relationship. And I'm just wondering if you've had any discussion with the owners about helping you, but also helping the city do something with that corridor that really needs some attention.
Yes, great question.
The state, by the way, because it's a state highway.
It is. So, I've had the pleasure of meeting two principal holders in Orion's, Atlas Withholdings is the new owner. And then the whole collection of property that they acquired from Evraz North America is under the name of Orion Steel. But the mill here specifically, they wanted to pay homage to its history. So they went back with Rocky Mountain Steel Mill. And they are very interested in community collaboration. This is something that they have been wanting to do for a while, but because the property was listed for sale for a lengthy time period, the local mill was not able to do anything and make any step forwards with that. I do know that one initiative that they are working on right now is gifting back a piece of property to the city of Pueblo in the park off of Maryland Avenue. For some reason, when the property got divided, they got Evra or the steel mill got a portion of this park. And so they're actively working now on gifting that portion back to the city of Pueblo. But yes, they're very interested in collaborating and partnering together. I've had discussions with the CEO here of the Pueblo Mill regarding this. And now that the sale has finally gone through, they are looking at ways to be involved, and we're engaging in discussions with them. They're well aware of the TIF zone, and they want to do these improvements. They want to be a community collaborator. And I do believe that they're waiting until the beginning of the year to present towards to city council, and then hopefully have an opening ceremony or an opening reception, not ceremony. That way people could get to know the new owners. They could lay out their vision and their strategic plan and their commitment not only to the steel mill workers, but the greater Pueblo community. In addition to ourselves, we've honestly have had frank conversations about how they can be a better supporter of us. Right now, we're very fortunate to where they have always been very strong supporters of us, and we wish to maintain that relationship, but also expanding out, like you're talking about, Councilor Flores, is what can we do about the beautification of that I-25 corridor? With this Brownfields grant that the city of Pueblo has, can we do about preserving historic preservation of some of the buildings that they have? What does it look like about gifting them to a nonprofit or back to the city? How can they be more transparent and opening in their operations? And it's definitely something that they're interested in and that they're wanting to do, that I think we're on the precipice of seeing that happen. You're welcome.
So Latino, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I would look forward to meeting the new ownership group. So if it's possible, and if our fellow council members and the mayor and her staff are willing to do this, I would like to ask you to possibly set up a time when we can all get together, because we want to welcome them to Pueblo. The history of this community belongs to the CF&I, or the Colorado Fuel and Iron, which has now been Everest Steel. And so we want to welcome them to Pueblo, and know that, let them know that this is their home as well. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
I most certainly will, Councilor Latino. And I will say that Mayor Graham, when those two principal owners did come to visit Pueblo, not long after the new sale was announced, she was able to meet with them and speak with them. But this is something we're actively coordinating with Rocky Mountain Steel Mill. So they do know that they want to come down here, and they do want to introduce themselves to council and the rest of the community. So when I get back to work on Wednesday after the Veterans Holiday, I will make sure to reach out to them personally again.
And, you know, again, it's history. When I graduated from college, the summer of my graduation from college, I worked at the Colorado Fuel and Iron, and it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot of lessons from a lot of great men and women in that particular summer, working in the wire mill and the nail room.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, any other questions, comments? Mr. Hill, you good?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, item agenda D. And that's going to be the PEDCO quarterly update. Mr. Jeff Shaw, President and CEO, 15-minute presentation. And Mr. Shaw, turn on your mic.
Well, I apologize, I didn't get presentation out by the Thursday deadline, so what I'll do is here's this, and we'll display it as we talk about it. And we'll post it on our website so the public has access to it as well. And myself working.
Thank you.
Dave, okay. So yeah, thank you for letting us come in. I want to introduce, I think most people know him, but sitting to my right is Dominic Galena. Dominic Galena is currently our chairman of the board until the end of the year when we kind of rotate. So Dominic will certainly be able to field questions as well. So what we do on this is part of our what they call the quarterly update. We're required to provide semi-annual updates, but we try to do a quarterly to try to give you an update on what we're working on. Give an idea of kind of what we're seeing, kind of progress. We do kind of start, I don't know if you want me to display it up here or not. You want me to put that up there? Put this underneath. At least so the people in the back can see it and anybody else watching. And like I said, we'll post this onto our website and make sure everybody has a link to it so they have access to this information that we're providing. We always start off with kind of a reminder of what we do and what we don't do necessarily, but our business is in the primary job business. So our mission is to attract, retain, and expand primary jobs in Pueblo. What we try to tell people and help the community understand is, you know, the attraction is what gets the attention. Expansion is how we're helping all the local ones, and retention is, you know, keeping them here. The most important thing an economic developer does is retention, is doing everything you possibly can as an economic developer in a community to keep the ones you have, because it's easier to keep them, then it's easier to expand them, and then the final. The one that gets most attention, which is the most difficult, is attracting them and bringing them into the community. So a lot of what we do on the retention, expansion gets some attention, but retention is something that goes untalked about a lot, but it's always important to mention. Again, we were founded in 1981. Approximately 99 companies were helped. That creates over 16,000 primary jobs in the community. Now, all those are not here anymore. Certainly, some companies come and go. Right now, 36 of those companies that we brought in still call Pueblo home. So that's about a little over 7,000 primary jobs. One of the questions people always ask us is, how long does a company stay? Do they come for 7 years, 10 years, 3 years? The average number of years a Petco Assistant Company stays in the community is 17 years, which is, in our opinion, very successful. Certainly some come and go for different reasons, but 17 years is a good number for historical purposes. We're about primary jobs mainly because it brings outside dollars into the community, but also the primary jobs typically have a higher pay scale than the non-primary job necessarily. And so again, to remind the council and everybody else what a primary job is, it's a company that manufactures a product or provides some kind of a service. 51% is exported out of the community. It's new dollars coming in the community. I think it's important to thank the voters since we're just coming off an election for the House and Sales Tax campaign. The House and Sales Tax campaign has been been in existence since 1984, and the citizens voted for approval again this time. So I think it's always important to thank the citizens for trusting the community with its dollars to help provide primary jobs to the community. The House and Sales Tax Fund does a number of things. It keeps it keeps us very competitive. It counters, Colorado has a little bit of a reputation when it comes to site selectors and outside businesses looking at the state that is fairly weak in an economic development. We're just not a state, it's not aggressive as a state. So the primary job, the House and Sales Tax campaign helps Pueblo stay very, very relevant when it comes to attracting outside companies to the state of Colorado. Also important to remember, those funds do not belong to Petco. We don't administer those funds. Those belong to the citizens of Pueblo. We recommend incentives only. Only the city can approve incentives. And so we just make recommendations. And as I pointed out, it's got a proven track record of success. Just a background on who we are, because I think sometimes question comes up, who is Petco? How's it organized? We are a nonprofit. We're a 501c6. We're a small staff right now. We have one staff member who's been out ill for some time. So right now we're currently operating under 3 staff, as well as two individuals that we contract with for workforce that help with the workforce conversations with our partners. 16 voting members on our board. 12 of those are elected by our membership. 2 are from the city, who the city appoint, and 2 from the county. One is the county commissioner, and the other one is the county manager. And then we have ex officios on our board, which would be the mayor, Pueblo Water, CSU Pueblo, PCC, Pueblo Metro District, the Chamber, and Latino Chamber. The next slide, I want to just kind of talk about briefly, which is what we mentioned is collaboration is key. Economic development is not just done by us. Being successful in economic development is not just one organization. It takes a collaborative approach as a community. And at any given time, we're working on projects. Most of, if not all of these, a large number of these entities are involved in projects we're working on, whether it's the city of Pueblo, Pueblo County, in some cases, Pueblo West Metro, Office of Economic Development, International Trade. Certainly a number of these is not an exhaustive list, but we see our partners in Pura, Puebloplex, Regional Building. When it comes to attracting companies in Pueblo, utilities are key. So our partners are either Black Hills, San Isabel, Excel Energy, Pueblo Water, Pueblo City Wastewater on the utility side. Some of our partner organizations would be Pueblo Development Foundation, Petco Foundation. Workforce development has been and remains one of the top factors in site selection and bringing companies to a community. And we've got some of the best workforce development programs in the state of Colorado, working with Pueblo Community College, Colorado State University Pueblo, as well as some of the programs that are that both District 60 and District 70 have, working with K through 12. A lot of other great collaborators in economic development, Greater Pueblo Chamber, Latino Chamber, Pueblo West Chamber, our new partner, Metro Denver EDC, which is part of the Front Range Collaborative, Economic Development Collaborative, Manufacturers Alliance of Colorado, which is an organization that we help start with the manufacturers in not only Pueblo, but also in the state of Colorado to help talk about issues manufacturers have on the state basis when it comes to legislation. And I know you had your lobbyist, who obviously does a great job, is aware and worked with Manufacturers Alliance of Colorado. And then careers in construction is one we've been working with, and is talking about the labor side. Obviously the skilled trades, the skilled that everybody needs. Are we still at this point focus on a number of focal industries? We're still focusing on aerospace and defense, chemical manufacturing, construction-related manufacturing, food and beverage processing, professional and scientific, which is kind of a catch-all for larger type operations where we want to try to get to as a community, outdoor recreation. And have a couple of themes in economic development. One of them is rail related because we do so much in rail as well as manufacture products for rail industry. And certainly the availability of water is a key component to it as well. Just giving an idea of companies that are here and currently operating in these spaces: aerospace and defense, United Launch Alliance out at the airport, Collins Aerospace at the airport, CAE, which used to be DOS Aviation, in the chemical manufacturing space, Interstate Chemicals, Trinity Plastics, Fujifilm. A number in food and beverage currently operate, and these include, likes of TR Toppers. Certainly Solar Roast has a primary job component to it, Mission Foods, Walters Grady's, and then Gulf Coal Manufacturing, which is out at the Airport Industrial Park, which has been here since 1980, almost 1990. A large number of companies in the construction-related manufacturing sphere. It's kind of a catch-all that manufactures products either for construction or for industry or housing for that matter. So the likes of Train Technologies, CR Minerals, Atcor, Foamcore, PWAG Traction Chain, Hard Ton Glass, Grupo Cementos, Coronado, Refactories West, Westwind, Summit Brick Company, Craig Manufacturers, examples of those companies still operating the construction-related manufacturing. A number in the professional scientific, the like of Premier Filament, the government printing office, which is out at the Airport Industrial Park, Hospital Co-op Laundry. Rail related, I just realized I've got to change our slide because it still says Evraz. We all know the name has changed since it's new ownership. So we got to change that to Rocky Mountain Steel. MXV Rail, LB Foster, Vosla, and then a number on the logistics side, Big R, Target Distribution, which is both out at the Airport Industrial Park. Outdoor recreation, the likes of Boreas Campers, and then a number in the renewable industry, Driven Plastics, Cooper and Turner, CS Wind. So that gives you a sample of companies that are operating in those clusters that are still in Pueblo. So we also try to talk about is what are our attraction methods, what we use for attraction. Or what's difficult in our world is trying not to get lost in the shuffle because everybody's trying to market to the same companies. There's, we're working with a company right now that's probably started with, a site selection of over 470 and trying to whittle it down to, one or two communities. So we're trying to get the attention of people, and it's very difficult to get lost in that. When everybody's doing TV, internet, social media, we do a number of TV and internet marketing. We were marketing up in the Denver market until April of 2025. We pulled back out of that because we joined the Front Range Economic Collaborative, and there's an agreement that we're not going to try to advertise in each other's backyards. Chicago's been a hot market for us for advertising, Phoenix, and certainly the Southern California market. We did participate part of a lot of efforts working with site selectors. We were involved with the Metro Denver Site Selector Conference in October. And I want to thank the mayor and Andrew Hayes for coming up for one of the dinners for it. And so they got a chance to meet, see what the site selectors were talking about. We do a number of, at any given time, one year to the next, we'll be participating in a number of industry trade shows. Certainly EDCC Council was down in Pueblo. I know the city had a booth down there. We appreciate them supporting the EDCC. We do work directly with the International Economic Development Corporation. Site Selectors Guild, which is a group of 30 to 40 site selectors, part of a kind of a unique group that pushes most projects. And then from time to time, we do participate in the foreign direct investments. That's those companies that are looking for that are manufacturing outside the United States and placing projects into the United States. Sometimes our efforts are working with local companies and supply chain possibilities. It's easier to hopefully bring a company that's, that's a cluster approach. The example would be somebody like a Trane Technologies. Trane Technologies has a number of companies that supply them product or work with them directly. As well as we interact with the state of Colorado regional and local economic development partners. One of the things we try to report on is kind of what the prospect activity looks like. And part of the challenge of that is identifying what, there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries, and we try to whittle those down into what we consider good prospects, businesses with interest, business most likely to move, and what the potential jobs. So what we try to report on since our last presentation, which was in June, approximately when we work on it, it's about 20 plus good inquiries looking at the community. Good prospects overall, about 10. And we think those are either moving into kind of a higher level of interest. And we combine those good prospects from that inquiry since the last presentation, and we combine those with existing companies that have interest in the community. Certainly about 16, I put 16 plus, it's probably around 16 to 20 right now. Businesses locally likely to move or expand, depends on a number of factors, but through conversations with them and where we're at with various stages of the prospect development and vetting prospects, about 9, which represents certainly 1,000 plus jobs. We're not going to land all those jobs in the next 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. It just depends on the time frame. Average wage for these, if we aggregate those really on the potential jobs and businesses most likely to move, the average wage would be 73,000 plus benefits approximately. Gives you an idea. So the prospects that we're working with represented really all the industries, but with of the ones that we mentioned in the professional and scientific, we classify the AI data centers, hyperscalers in the professional and scientific side, working with a large number of projects that are either data center or hyperscale related. Construction industry, biomedical, rail related, food and beverage, heavy fabrication, outdoor recreation industry, aerospace and defense, and certainly renewable energy still has a large presence in Pueblo as well as the prospect activity. Give you a little bit more of an example of companies we were working with. Last time we reported, we mentioned a couple of really active projects at the time. One is a manufacturer that's looking for an expansion purposes, about 120 jobs, a large CapEx project. The other one at the time was 65 employees at $8 million. That now subsequently has been announced. That is the TrustWorks project. We are working on one very, very large project that is an all-consuming time. It's a 300 plus employees with a CapEx of over $750 million. A very transformative project in the southern part of the community. If we can pull it off, takes when I mentioned that the partners we're working with that are representative of who we work with in economic development, a large numbers of those are directly spending considerable amount of staff time on that project. Aerospace and defense, of those numbers is still an active consideration. A lot of our projects, a lot of the time also has been spent on the data hyperscalers.
Keep on going.
I'm out of time. I apologize. And I know your lobbyist touched on the data centers and AI. Since for about 9 months now, it's been part of the biggest conversation that's going on, not only us with prospects, but also across the state of Colorado. So very intriguing. We have a couple potential projects that we're working on the southern part of town. And hopefully stay tuned. But we, as your lobbyist mentioned, there is some legislation pending that is going to be critical on whether or not the state of Colorado is going to be land some of these big opportunities. Not to go through the trends, but certainly these are the trends from site selectors that tell us what we should be looking at. Utilities and infrastructure is certainly highest on the list right now. Workforce and labor availability has historically been the highest on the list. But because of the AI and data centers, utilities, infrastructure, and availability of ready sites is certainly the highest priority right now. And then you can just kind of go down the list of what site selectors see as most relevant for a community. A couple things we're working with, and I'm sorry to go through fast. I want to leave some time for some questions. We've presented a work session, and I think the city's moving forward on some engineering, looking at a sewer lift station and some of the things we need to do for us. Certainly the St. Charles Industrial Park, which is south of town. We are currently looking at other potential commercial industrial sites in the city and county of Pueblo to see what development needs to work to get them more site ready. If your site's not ready, you're not going to have a chance landing a company. And then obviously, working on the airport, seeing what opportunities, work with the city, Pueblo Community College, CAE, seeing what other opportunities look like inside that fence line, because it's still a great asset that potentially can be utilized for primary job purposes. One of the reasons, and I think it's always important to mention why we talk about primary jobs are what create the additional jobs in the community. The other slides, I'm not going to go through them, but essentially a primary job is then going to create a number of indirect or induced jobs. So those primary jobs will create, there's those primary jobs, and companies are spending dollars. Their employees are spending dollars. They're buying money from suppliers. That's where the economic multiplier comes from that you hear in economic development. And then the last page talks a little bit of what represents the indirect and induced. Those are all the service industries, grocery stores, business services, real estate, utilities, anything from banking, finance, restaurant, real estate, retail. With that, I'm going to stop. I don't know if Dominic had anything to add, and we'll certainly answer any questions you may have about prospects we're working on, directions city council thinks we should be taking for prospects, and what our activity load looks like.
Council Flores, please.
Did you have anything to add? Not at this point. Okay. I have several questions, but before we do that, I wanted to congratulate you guys for the citizens again providing the half-cent sales tax. I think it's a reaffirmation, okay, that the city is really well, first of all, it was started by citizens. Some people should know that, that the business community came together 44 years ago and put your organization together. And I always cite the fact that most Rust Belt cities are dying right now based on depending on steel. And we didn't go that route. We kept our population and grew a little bit. But we could be Gary, Indiana, that lost 50% of their population. We could be Springfield, Ohio, that lost 30% of their population. And so you guys would be, not only to the current board, but all the boards that have been around for the past. I really wanted to congratulate you for what you do. As you know, you are a membership organization, and that as a result of that, your operating costs is somewhere between 65 and 70%. You take care of yourself and you don't ask for anything else. Your membership is probably in excess of 200 to 250 businesses that tax themselves through a membership dues to provide this service to the citizens. And you get some money from the city. I think it's at one time it was 35, it dropped to 30. You may be down in the high 20s now. But the community should know that because we passed an ordinance indicating that we wanted to put an RFQ out. And so which is ironic because any RFQ, anyone that wants to do economic development would first have to put on the table 65% of their budget, whatever that might be. So they started at a distinct disadvantage that anybody would do that. Why would they do that if they're an economic development company that it makes money in doing that? Why would they interject a deposit, I guess, of 65% of their budget to begin with? So I think going down that road is a mistake. As everybody knows, your contract was canceled by the city. And I had asked our legal department, and I still want to go down that road. I want that contract reinstated before I get off city council. I agree that maybe the contract has to be renegotiated, but why are we doing this in such haste, especially with your reputation? I think the citizens have spoken that they want you guys to continue as our economic arm. You've had a lot of successes and you continue to do a good job.
Thank you.
So at this point, you know, I don't know what the RFQ is going to bring. I don't see anybody I mean, if your budget's around $1 million, you guys are providing $650,000 of your membership dues. And what else whatever the city gives you really only represents probably 28 to 30%. So I don't know what kind of appetite there is from any company trying to replicate what you guys are already doing, and of which 250 businesses in the community think you're doing a great job. My question to you has to do with how you go about vetting a business, because you do us a great service to the city. You actually make sure that any kind of contact, any company that we want to bring into the community are totally vetted, that they pass all of your economic formulas and algorithms to make sure that they're companies that are viable and that are going to do, that they're going to create jobs. I wanted to mention something else before I forget, and that is the economic dashboard, which you
Yes.
guys have taken over.
Yes.
This economic dashboard was started by the city, and then I had put a 2-year deadline, and you guys have taken it over. But it is mind-boggling, some of the information in this that's reconfirmed every quarter. And one of them is that we right now have almost 2,800 jobs in Pueblo. And the problem in Pueblo is that we cannot find properly trained individuals to take those jobs. Usually in the nursing area, we know that we're down, sometimes it's 35, 45 police officers. So we have our own problems, and the county has the same problem in finding people. The other interesting statistic is that in the city of Pueblo, the median price of a house is $315,000. And I bring that up because that is one highlight that we should really work on. And just to give you a contrast and an example, we currently have a median price of a house in Denver is $667,000. In Colorado Springs, it's $480,000. We should be selling the fact that you, as a young couple, you can still buy a house in Pueblo. You can't in Denver anymore. I would like for us to consider as a city council reinstating their contract. I think the citizens have spoken, but also having the city work with them in formulating a contract that's going to work best, but not rush this thing through. It doesn't have to be done by December 31. We probably need a period of 3 to 4 to 5 months to do it right. And I would say that I would like for the council to consider that and have our city attorneys work on that. Number one, reinstating the existing contract. It's worked for 43 years. And secondly, look at a contract that might be better.
Okay. Councilor Boston, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. I had a couple of questions. The first one is regarding that online platform you guys were working on generating to kind of help keep the public informed. How's that coming along at this point?
It's good, and I'll send a link out to it that the idea was, thank you, Councilman, for bringing it up. The idea was to, by project name, or at least best we possibly can, to give the kind of the status of each project and where it's sitting right now. I believe it's been launched, but I'll double check on it and we'll get the link out to everybody.
Thank you. And then the second question I had is, so as you guys know, the election results have come in and it's about a 57-43% on the keeping of the half-cent sales tax. So with the margin being fairly close on that, I know you came and previously spoke that you were in favor of tweaking how some of that money could be spent. Is that something that you still think it's maybe in the best interest of some of those dollars, or do you think that leaving it as is the best course going forward?
No, I think that's great questions. I think those are fair questions. And yeah, the margin has gone down a little bit. The campaign was a lot smaller this time around too, but so no, there's certain projects, like I mentioned, we chase primary jobs, which traditionally are the manufacturing side or the service side. Our whole goal is to bring new dollars to the community, not circulating existing dollars. But are there things that need to be tweaked for us to bring in, large tourism projects, infrastructure that's going to help for those type of projects? So yes, we're open to those conversations. Absolutely. It didn't end there. We want to be part of that conversation, either, now or certainly into the next year.
And I'll add to that. Primary jobs are the gold of economic development, and not just here in Pueblo, but in the industry as a whole. And they're the gold because they are the best bang for your buck. They are the best investment, period. Reason being, every primary job has a multiple factor. So you're not just bringing 100 jobs, you're bringing 100 jobs with a multiple of, say, 2. So that's why they're so valuable in economic development, is because it's not just that job and the salary, it's the secondary and induced job that comes with those jobs. So when the citizens just voted that they wanted to continue primary jobs as a use of the half-cent sales tax, they recognize that that is the best bang for your buck when it comes to economic development. Now, certainly, like Jeff said, I think the organization, we want to be ever evolving with the times, right? But I can tell you that we will continue to pursue primary jobs as our mission, because that's where the best bang for the taxpayer's buck is.
And I agree that should be the primary focus. But I was just curious if you guys still had the same sentiment you had when previously discussed that a small portion of those funds could be used for other things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Council Latino.
Yes, Jeff and Dominic, I want to thank you both, and I want to thank you for what you're doing and what Petco has done for this community. Had it not been for you, we would be in bad shape. Okay, it's because of you and your organization and the hard work that you've done that we are where we are in terms of jobs. And you have my support, and you have my community support. My district that I represent supports you 100%. Okay, and if there's anything that I could personally do to help you, I'm there for you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Latino.
And I would encourage, just on that note, we got to give credit where credit's due. And so, the group that started this and, what they went through and how they built up the community, and also to Councilman Forrest's point, I would encourage, and we can send links to it if it's not certainly posted on our website, but there's a video out there that was part of our 40-year celebration that kind of really walks through the history of it and kind of shows kind of what the community looked like and what they had to go through. And so, I think the community owes, at least those founding and those that put their time and their money into it when it was it was a new approach to economic development. That doesn't mean to say it doesn't need to be tweaked. There's maybe some changes that need to happen. To Councilman Flores' point, we've been working on the same contract idea for 18 some odd years. So there's certain things change. We need to tweak some stuff and let's make it current. But I think we also don't want to forget where we came from, because if we forget it, we can end up back there very quickly.
Yeah, Council, you good?
I'm good. I just was going to say, I think the key to all this is improving our aesthetics in this community and the crime. And that means we need to work with law enforcement, and we need to move in a different direction as it relates to the chief of police of this community. Thank you.
Okay, any other, Councilor Maestri, please?
Just something that a lot of times the public doesn't realize. Tell me how many other cities have economic development tax incentives that they can offer employers and
So-
companies to come in. So
Yeah, I can't-
here in Colorado.
I can't tell you exactly. Some have different forms of it. I can tell you this one is the largest of its kind. Certainly, there's some, like for instance, our neighbors to the north have a deal closing fund where I think right now, unless they've recently changed it, I think they can allocate 5,000 towards a job. The house and sales tax far outweighs the state of Colorado, the Office of Economic Development Strategic Fund. Castle Rock has some dollars they can put into a project. There's some up north they do. I can't tell you the exact amount, but I can tell you when our friends in economic development, to the north, get an idea of what this fund looks like and how you can do it. They ask us, how do you get that fund in place? And we tell them, well, you need to have like 24% unemployment. So you're hungry enough to do something like this because it's very, very difficult. So it's that goose that lays the golden egg that's so critical. And so their comment to us, which are, our friends up north say, whatever you do, don't lose that fund, because that's going to be, especially in the state of Colorado, which is underwhelming when it comes to economic development. It's critical when you want to go after big projects.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other? Counselor Flores?
I just wanted to reiterate about how the fund has been tweaked a few times. And one of the times was during COVID.
Yes.
We were the only community that helped 603 of our businesses stay afloat by utilizing we set aside $5 million. So those businesses got stipends that did not have to be repaid back. And so we were kind of unique in the state of Colorado during the COVID period. And we also, I think we had a lending program that 36 businesses took advantage of. So, I mean, it's also a safety net. And many times if we have a catastrophe in the community,
Yes.
or something like an epidemic, and I wanted to mention that because we've been able to fall back on that. We don't do that very often, and it's not normally a good thing, but in an emergency, it certainly came in handy.
No, and it was a privilege to work with the city on that when it happened, but it was, you give the credit to the city for making the changes that need to be done, be able to do that, because it was some funds that were desperately needed by the local community who's been paying into it. So they were helping. It was a way to help them out.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Anything else, Mr. Shaw? You good?
Nothing further. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, next up, item agenda E, the city council board and commissions update. We'll go from right to left. Sarah Martinez, would you start, please?
Sure. So I'm the council representative on the Latino Chamber of Commerce. I have a couple of updates regarding their board of directors. One, they have really stepped up in helping the community with SNAP. They're doing a lot around making sure that restaurants know that they can donate food if there's excess food, if there's surplus of food, how to get that food used, and businesses to navigate the SNAP program funds. So that's the first thing. Two, they had their annual Dia de los Muertos celebration on the Riverwalk. It was a huge success. They welcomed 600 visitors for the event. And they're going to be hosting the event again on November 1st in 2026. My family and I actually went, and it was a really great celebration of just paying homage to our ancestors that have crossed over. So I thought that they did a really great job with that event. Three, they're going to be hosting a grant writing workshop at their office on November 19th at 11 a.m. The workshop's totally free to attend. They're going to be covering the best practices on grant writing, places to find grants and resources. As we all know, the grant landscape is pretty competitive right now. So this grant workshop offered from the Latino Chamber is going to be a really great resource at training small businesses and local nonprofits to get some money. And then the last one is that they're going to be hosting their State of the Chamber breakfast on January 23rd, 2026. So during that breakfast, they're going to be walking through their state of the organization, their annual report, and then their look ahead for 2026. So that's all of the updates on behalf of Latino Chamber Board of Directors.
Okay, Councilor Flores.
Yeah, I serve on 4 boards, and the thing I've been busy with is kind of resigning off a lot of them. I've only got 4 meetings after this one. But anyway, I wanted to say that one of the organizations that all city council people serve on is PACOG. And we currently are, the contractors are really going fast and putting the new overpass into Belmont. It's a $165 million project. And it looks, the last time we were given a timetable on that, they're right on schedule. And it really won't be totally completed into about 2027. It'll take all of next year. The other significant change on PACOG is that our newly elected city councilor, Brett Boston, is now the chairman, which we're all happy, and he's got a lot on his plate. Congratulate him too on his win. The other board I serve on is the Front Range Passenger Rail District, and that actually is a position I was put on as a result of being on PACOG, and so I'll be relinquishing that position, and that is the dream of having passenger rail from Fort Collins to Trinidad. And that's going to take some time, but the significant timetable is November of next year. We will go to the Colorado voters and they will elect whether or not they're willing to provide the funds, which will be along the corridor of the Front Range. So that'll be a very important date with, I mean, it's a huge dollar amount in the billions to be able to do that. So that's what they're working on, and I'm going to be handing the baton on to someone else on PACOG. I'm on urban renewal. Urban renewal is going through some changes. We have, as a board, I'll be coming off of that after the last December meeting, but the Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority is looking and has a firm doing a national search for a new executive director. And so that'll be the big thing there. And obviously nothing has stopped. We were lucky to have our chief financial officer take over as interim, and she's well versed on everything that's going on, so there won't be any interruptions at that point. And I think I heard Brian earlier say there was one slot open, so anybody that's interested in that position should apply through the city. I think I covered all of them. Oh, Petco. Obviously, I'm elated that the half-cent sales tax passed, and I think Petco's doing a good job. And my term will be over on December 31 there. And they currently are working on a very large project right now. The city, as we have passed an ordinance to increase a lift station that will go beyond Pueblo Boulevard and Lake, which will not only help this business that we're looking at, but also help to the west of I-25 in commercial and residential construction. So we were happy that we can combine those two together to be able to continue working on all these projects on the southern part of Pueblo. And that's all I have.
Council, anybody else? Council Maestri, please.
So I serve on the Pueblo Department of Regional Building Department for Pueblo. And, you know, they've had a big change over. The county decided to go out on their own, which left the city without a partner in IGA in order to continue services through the Regional Building Department. And so good news is we have a partner that is, we have a first reading on the town of Boone. So we're entering into a new IGA in order to keep the department, the building department open and partnering with them, and they'll continue business as usual. We had the whole team at the building department has reworked their budget so that they can be operational without the revenue that's brought in by the county permits. And so the building department's been working really hard and going out and speaking to other communities. And there's quite a few more communities that are looking at coming on board to increase the business and the revenue through the building department. So that a lot of good things are happening there. You know, for July, there was a cut, you know, when they cut us off, we're almost to December and we're rebuilding. And so it's been a really good effort put out by everyone to continue going through. It'll do a name change and it'll be the Southern Colorado Regional building department. And so I'm looking forward to entering into that IGA at the next meeting. And that's all.
City Council President Mark Aliff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For sake of time, the big one is the Riverwalk. I'm on the HARP board. The boathouse, we're waiting on the elevator to get in. That's supposed to happen December 10th. And then the CO can take place right after that. So hopefully before Christmas. I know I said November my last time, but you know, that's how construction goes, right? They had a wonderful event for the trick or treating. I was told there was a crazy amount. I think it was like 10,000 kids went out there and they didn't run out of candy. All the businesses that I think there were 70 businesses that were a part of it. They all stocked up real good and it was a great event. And also at the Riverwalk, I want to remind everybody that the week after Christmas is when all of the Christmas promotions start happening down there. They have a lot of cool stuff that they do. They light it up. You can ride the boats. It's really a gem, and hopefully we'll have the boathouse open by then, and that'll be a good deal. The Homeless Commission is getting its legs underneath it. Had a meeting on Monday, which is our second meeting, and hopefully we'll come to council here soon with some great ideas. And the Community Development Committee that I chair is back in full swing, and we have some good things happening there that hopefully I can come back and report on after our meeting this month. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Council Boston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm on Pedco with Councilman Flores. He already pretty much covered everything there. Same thing with PayCog. I'm sure everybody saw that the bridge is now gone for Highway 50B, so they're making good progress on that. Planning and zoning, Bathhouse is up for historic designation here coming soon. So that'll more than likely get passed and be back in front of council before long. Other than that, just a couple subdivisions or rezonings at some places. And I think that's all I have for this one.
Council Latino.
With regard to the airport board, we'll be meeting this next week and we're just in the process of getting some things done as it relates to the airport in terms of maintenance, and that's pretty much where we are.
Okay. Well, before we adjourn, I'd kind of be remiss if I didn't acknowledge some of the city council elects. Mr. Ted Hernandez, would you please stand? Diane Dante, would you please stand? Brett Boston, would you please stand? Let's give these guys a round of applause.
And Selena Ruiz Gomez in the back as well.
Selena Gomez. Selena, are you here, Selena? Where's Selena? Back there. Come on up so we can all see Selena. Didn't see you there. Selena Ruiz Gomez. All right, we're going to adjourn. We'll be back at 7:15 unless we have anything else. Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah. How can one guy have so much credit?